Hey everyone! I'm excited to share that my first book, Broken to Better, 13 Ways Not to Fail at Life and Leadership, will launch on Amazon and other online retailers shortly after. The process of writing this book has been enlightening and energizing. I've enjoyed reflecting on my time as CEO of Branded Group and sharing my entrepreneurial journey, as well as the lessons I've learned in my goal to be better. The book is organized around 13 Be Better principles. Here is a peek into a few of them. 1. Be connected. Business is always about relationships. 2. Be fearless. Never be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. 3. Be purposeful. Create value for your clients and your employees with your products and services. 4. Be service-oriented. Solve your clients' problems better than anyone else. 5. Be generous. Give back in whatever way you can to improve your community and the world. I'm confident that the book will help you to be better for your team, your clients, and your community. After you've read it, please consider leaving a review on Amazon and also consider sharing it or gifting it to your family and friends. If you'd like to talk with me about the book, you can reach me at mkurland@branded-group.com. Thank you. Hello, I'm Michael Kurland, CEO and co-founder of Branded Group, an award-winning facility maintenance and construction management company that services multi-site commercial properties such as retail, restaurants, healthcare facilities, and educational institutions. Welcome to the Be Better podcast. Each week, I interview thought leaders from a variety of industries who will share their stories and the lessons they learn as they strive to be better for their clients, partners, employees, and their community. Are you ready to be better? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Be Better podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kurland. Joining me today, DeLinda Forsythe, CEO and founder of Innovative Commercial Environments and author of the best-selling book, Inspiring Generational Leadership. DeLinda, welcome to the show. Tell the audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for asking me to join you today. I was really looking forward to this conversation. As another fellow Southern California resident, I love to hear people doing great things for the business community. And I think your podcast happens to be one of those positive things that leaders in the Southern California region are doing for our community. I started ICE, Innovative Commercial Environments, San Diego's most creative office and hospitality furniture dealership, in 2006. I was a single mother at the time. I had just met my now husband, but at the time was my boyfriend. And he kept telling me, why are you putting up with so much abuse where you work? He worked in compliance with MetLife, worked for them for 37 years. And the furniture industry is highly unregulated, and my compensation was constantly changing. And it was difficult to go on vacation because you'd come back and you'd lose clients because you weren't there when they happened to call in. And it was just really tough making a living. And as a single mother, my son was accepted into Georgetown, and I knew that was going to be a really tough road if I didn't take the chance and become an ethical entrepreneur. So I started ICE in 2006 with a goal to help my son achieve his educational aspirations. I also started ICE because I wanted to create a workplace that I had always imagined but never experienced. And the employees that I first attracted were young women with little to no workplace experience. As a matter of fact, my key employee, who's been with me for 15 years now, is the daughter of my fitness instructor at the time. She's now my bookkeeper, Marilyn. And Elise has been with me for 15 years. She moved from a receptionist to president in 2015. In 2020, with the COVID shutdowns, we couldn't shut down ICE, but I had made a choice to no longer go into the office because I'm over 60, and so is my husband, and we were just really concerned about our health. And we had been preparing Elise for many years to take over ICE, and we finalized our purchase sale agreement February 2022. And that's kind of how we started ICE, and it was in the beginning, it was just really about helping others and helping the younger generation. That was really the focus of ICE. That's why I started it. And how I started it is I started it from a spare bedroom. I had 20 years of experience in office furniture. I had a great reputation in San Diego. I had a lot of existing clients, but more than that, I had a brand, a personal brand that I'm going to encourage your listeners to focus on that and creating a personal brand based on ethics, based on integrity, based on consistency, follow through, doing the right thing is a long-term strategy. A lot of business leaders, a lot of I was always in sales. A lot of salespeople think, hey, I'm trying to get that quick deal. But that's not going to build your brand, and it is not going to build your book of business, and it's not going to serve you well for the long run. So that's kind of how I started ICE.
Well, that's a great story. I love everything you just said. I have a lot of questions, and I have a lot of similarities. So let's start with what you said most recently, which is personal branding. And I cannot agree with you more. When I came out to Southern California, to Anaheim area, and started Branded Group in 2014, all I had was my name. I had a bunch of other, clients, like you said, that were willing to, take a chance on a startup company. But all I had was my name, and I had one shot to do it right. And if I messed up with being unethical or having a lack of integrity, which are kind of the same thing, right? Then I was going to lose those clients. So we've always run our company on the highest standards of ethics and integrity. That's honesty and integrity are like two of my mainstays. I can't operate, even in my personal life, I can't operate without those. If I can't be honest on a two-way street, it's very difficult for me to maintain a relationship with someone. So I do echo your sentiments to the audience. If you do want to start your own company, and I hope that if you're listening to this podcast that a lot of you do, that your personal brand is what you have. It's like your credit score, right? You have nothing else in this world, because banks look at you as a number, right? Your credit score. You're either 750 or you're 520. And if you're 520, you need to work on getting back up to 750, or you're just, not good enough, right? So that just, was some synergy that you got me thinking of there. But I wanted to talk about a couple of other things you said. You said you're the most creative office furniture. So what does that mean? How do you get awarded that? Talk about that. Like, what are you doing to become the most creative?
Well, that's a great question, because there's not like a real award. There's a few caliber awards, and we're close to Pendleton, Camp Pendleton, so you can hear one of our helicopters going by. We don't have too
problem.
Much outside noise.
I just went and saw Top Gun 2, so I love all those fighter plane and helicopter plane noises.
Yeah, we love our soldiers, we love our military, and thank God for them. Anyway, so how did we become the most creative? Right from the beginning, something that my background was dance, and I've been a very creative person all my life, and that's why I was so attracted to the office furniture industry, because we're creating these beautiful spaces. Our higher purpose statement at ICE is creating space to transcend the ordinary. What we do for a living is create beautiful office spaces for our customers, for their employees, to transcend the ordinary. And as important to us is the safe emotional space that we create at ICE for our employees to transcend the ordinary. So it's always been a driver for us. We did not have a differentiating product, Michael, until 2018. We actually had all the same furniture options that everybody else did. But being very creative, years ago, I'm going to say 2012 maybe, I started introducing hospitality furniture into commercial spaces, residential furniture into office spaces. And there's a word that came out about 2015 called resi-mercial, and it's the blending of residential and commercial, resi-mercial spaces. And we had won some Caliber awards that are awards for Southern California for the most creative spaces. We have definitely won some of those awards. But I look at why do I consider us the most creative? It's who hires us. It's commercial real estate developers like Kilroy, like Alexandria Real Estate, like the Irvine Company that can work with any furniture dealership, but they're looking to create very unique spaces. And they've tried other dealers and they've stuck with us for many years. Some of those developers took us 10 years to develop a relationship with them for us to be their go-to. And that really served us well during 2020 when no one was going into the office or buying office furniture. We actually had an 8% revenue growth in 2020. We had 0 employee layoffs. And it's because of these relationships that we had with developers. This was a great time for them to improve their amenity spaces. And amenity spaces are where people gather. They're gathering spaces in an office complex or in an office environment. And so there was that. And then also I say that because we actually created our own brand of furniture, custom furniture. In our industry, in the office industry, you don't want to spend a lot of time on creating. You want to do cookie cutter, order 1,000 of these or 500 of these, and to do that kind of customization, because we weren't aligned with the major brand, we had that ability for many, many years to fine tune our customization. And I developed, and you can see it on our website, I developed my own line. We're not making it anymore because it's just so expensive. It's made with an I-beam. So the I-beam housed all the electrical, so this is big industrial I-beam with all the electrical. And then we'd have these height adjustable desks that we'd pull up with live edge wood. So very organic, very what you would see in nature. And people loved it. You know how popular breweries are. You were talking about liking to go to breweries. We called it brewery-inspired office furniture. And startups loved it. And we did really well with that line. It turned out it's just really expensive. I-beams, all that
Sure.
steel. Yeah, no one can afford that these days.
So you mentioned when we were talking that you did come up with a differentiating product in 2018. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
These I-beams? Okay.
Oh, no. 2018, we aligned with Technion. Technion is a national, it's a global manufacturer. And they are one of the top 4 or 5 largest office furniture manufacturers in the world. And they chose us as their San Diego partner in 2018. So that is, we're the only Technion dealer in San Diego. So now we have a really differentiating product. And now we've grown so much since then. It's just incredible because a lot of larger firms, really big firms, they want a national brand. So when you go to buy a car, you can buy a Kia or you can buy a Tesla. Tesla's brand is very different than a Kia brand. And so now we're attracting customers that would buy a Tesla. Before we only really had clients that were more towards Kias. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I love the car descriptions, examples. I'm a big car guy, so that makes sense. So you mentioned one other thing. You had your receptionist, and now she's the president of your company. Did I hear that correctly?
You sure did, yeah.
And so that's great, because at Branded Group, we do the same thing. I have my administrative assistant from when we first opened in 2014. She's now the accounting manager. I have another administrative assistant that I've promoted to the IT manager, obviously over the course of time. And, we're all about bringing our people up and, getting them to where they want to be inside a Branded Group. So I really love that story. But then you mentioned a sale agreement. I wasn't following that. Is that you sold a
Yes.
portion of the company to her, and now
Yeah.
she's a part owner? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I still have 100% ownership of
Okay.
ICE. And Elise, let me take you back just a little bit. In
Sure.
2008, Elise joined my firm as a full-time college student and a full-time employee. She was going to Cal State San Marcos. Her background and her major was accounting. And we really thought she was just going to be with us for 4 years while she got her accounting degree. And then after she graduated, she really loves the industry. She's natural. She's the most gifted individual I've ever seen in the office furniture industry. And she's 35 now. She's been with me for 15 years. So these 15 years, I've been working with her, mentoring her. But the reason I wrote Inspiring Generational Leadership is because we co-created the leadership strategies together with the millennial input. We had not just Elise and not just me. My husband ended up retiring from MetLife and joining us as COO. And then we've had other young millennial women in leadership roles at ICE that were giving us this input like, hey, we want work from home. Let's go with that. 2015 or maybe 2014. We want to work from home. And we thought, well, that's really crazy. There's no way. You guys are going to be walking your dogs and doing your laundry because you know what? That's what I would do. And they said, no, I think this is what young people want. They want this flexibility. So we implemented that policy. And fast forward to 2020, right? We were all set up. Everybody was working from home. That was a standard policy for us that had been implemented for at least 5 years or maybe 6 years at that point. So that's why I say that all these things that we did intuitively, Michael, working with millennials, aligning with their values and their desires, and crafting corporate policies based on their input that we necessarily didn't. Boomers don't necessarily agree with a lot of the ideals of the millennials, and there's conflict. Often there can be, but there never was in our company because there was so much mutual respect. We respected them and they respected us for our wisdom. And there was a lot of, it's not that we agreed on everything, but we always agreed to respect each other. And at the end of the day, that we would, honor whatever was negotiated. And most of the time we listened to them and did what they wanted, but not every time, but I would say most of the time, because they were some good ideas, even if we had never experienced them in our careers. Because I'm 65, my husband's 67. So, we came from a different era than a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old. Very different era. But we liked their ideas, We're like, oh, even when we didn't like their ideas, we were like, well, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I can relate to what you're saying as well. We started in 2014, Branded Group, and I had come from another place that was very hard against work from home. You had to be in the office to be productive, and that was the mindset. And that former company employed a lot of single moms who were racing around to try and get their kids to daycare on time, to get to the office on time, and just creating so much extra anxiety in these women's lives that were already full of anxiety by trying to raise a child by themselves. And so when we opened the doors, that's where I was raised, and I was initially not for it. And then I started the company. We were successful for the first 2 years, and then we started testing it out because some of my former employees they weren't my employees, but work coworkers were coming to me now saying, hey, you started a company, I want to work for you. And I was saying, okay, well, and they, you'd have to work from home. And so we tested it out. And to your point, I do think they are walking the dog. I do think they are doing their laundry, but they're still getting everything done. So I don't care. You want to walk your dog for your 15-minute break, your 20-minute break? Have at it. You want to do your laundry in between phone calls? Go for it. Just make sure you get your stuff done at the end of the day. That was always my mentality. And guess what? When 2020 hit, Branded Group, same thing. We were already in the cloud. We already had a 30% remote workforce, and we just went fully remote right off the bat, and away we went. And it was great because it allowed us to carry through what was a very tough time for a lot of companies, as you know, and we were able to seamlessly transition and still, they always ask you, what will you do in a disaster plan? That's one of the biggest questions our clients ask us. If there was a disaster at your office and it caught on fire, what would you do? And I always would say, well, we're cloud-based. We were able to go remote within a 24-hour turnaround, and we actually got to put that disaster plan into effect, and it didn't affect any of our business whatsoever. So I really appreciated what you're saying and really aligned with it. So you gave me such a good segue that I don't want to waste that segue. You started talking about Inspiring Generational Leadership, your book. So best-selling book on Amazon. Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about all of the accolades that it's won, and tell the audience a little bit about what it is.
Well, it's something that in 2019, I was trying to figure out why ICE had been so successful. As I mentioned, we didn't have a differentiating product until 2018 to get these really big projects. We get really big projects now, but yet we were growing. Revenues were growing so much every single year. 62% was our lowest growth and 150% our highest growth from 2014 to 2020. In 2019, as the CEO, it's really knowing that I've got a shelf life. I'm going to be leaving in the next few years. And everything I was doing for so many years was intuitive. And I did not have a language, a lexicon to explain why we were so successful. So I thought, I need to figure this out, because if you don't know where you came from, well, how do you know where you're going? And it was really important to understand it. And it started as an internal document, really. I started doing this research. I was introduced to the Conscious Capitalism book, the movement, the theory, the organization. It's a global organization with something like 36 chapters globally. There's one in Los Angeles, one in San Diego, as we talked about. There may be one in the neighborhood where your listeners are tuning in. There may be one in a city close to them. And I connected with this movement and these tenets. There's 4 tenets with conscious capitalism, that the corporation exists not necessarily for profit, but it has a higher purpose. And that purpose is to elevate humanity, that there's a higher purpose to the existence of your business. Like for us, my higher purpose was creating a safe space to transcend the ordinary. Higher purpose, that you have conscious leadership, conscious culture, and that there's all stakeholders are integrated, which means that your employees are as important as your customers. Your customers are as important as your vendors and your banker and your community and the environment too. The environment is all stakeholders are integrated and they're equal, not just shareholders. So those were the 4 tenets, and that really resonated with me. So I started studying the conscious capitalism. I joined the CCI, the Senior Leader Network, and joined a mastermind group in 2020 to really do a deep dive and understand these principles and how they aligned with our intuitive leadership strategies. And I started writing the book. It's a how-to guide. The full name is Inspiring Generational Leadership, Your Guide to Design a Conscious Culture. And it's a how-to guide. So it's a how to create this same type of a workplace in your place of business. That's kind of why I wanted to do it. And I learned that the values of the millennial generation and the Gen Z generation right behind them, they have these same values, are in complete alignment with the values of conscious capitalism. And that's why we were doing so well and attracting this talent and retaining talent so well. It wasn't our people that were different. It wasn't our products that were different. It was our people that were different. And our people were different because our leadership strategies were different. Cared for people, care for people. We weren't losing any of our customers because we had such a high level of customer service. That's what I figured out through those 2 years of research that resulted in this how-to guide. And it really is a 15-year case study of ICE, a company that has had measurable societal and financial success because of these leadership strategies that we co-created together with our coworkers. It was not just a top down; it was a top down, bottom up, and peer to peer. Mentorship is in our DNA. We mentor just intuitively with each other, peer to peer. Everybody loves that because it makes people feel like they belong, like they're valuable, and that they're cared for by their coworkers. And we're not a workplace for everybody. It's not going to fit for everybody. Some people like to gossip. Some people can only see the bad in stuff, and what we found is those people, it's not leadership that pushes them out. Their coworkers push them out because they just don't want to hear it. We're here to do a great job, have some fun, enjoy what we're doing, feel good about ourselves. We pay very well. We have great benefits right from the beginning. We had a 401k plan that was matching. Even when we weren't, we were a brand new startup, and we implemented that. That was my husband's idea, even though he wasn't part of ICE until maybe 2014. But he was always in the background helping us with these Fortune 500 policies. So that was why I started writing IGL, and then I hired a great writing coach. I hired a team to help me get that book to Amazon bestseller in 5 categories when it launched in October 2021. It was a pre-launch, and then it was available on Amazon February 2022. And I actually give a free book excerpt that it's my goal, really, Michael, is to help leaders understand how important these principles are. So chapter 1 is completely free. You can download it from my website. We'll talk about that later. But the chapter 1 is Conscious Capitalism, Millennials, and an Evolving Perspective. And it just gives you the reasons why you want to adopt these principles. And the number one driver for me, if I was a leader of a startup or of a seasoned Fortune 100 company, is the Great Resignation. How people are resigning. People don't want to work at companies where they're not treated well. So, and the cost of turnover can be 33% of an employee's annual income to 2 times. Gallup indicates that it's 2 times an employee's annual salary to replace that person. So you're saying all the individuals that you've promoted internally, you're retaining those people. That is really smart business strategy and leadership strategy.
Well, DeLinda, you talked about so much there, and one thing that I wrote down because it resonated with me is cared for people, care for people. Mm-hmm. And there's many different ways to say this kind of thing, but when you take care of your people, they will take care of your customers, and that's what I've learned as well. Our retention rate, when I've talked about it ad nauseum, the audience is probably rolling their eyes right now saying, oh, you're going to talk about the retention rate again. But it is so important. We have a 95% retention rate. It dipped down. It dipped down in the beginning of COVID 2020 because unfortunately we did have to furlough some people, but we brought back everyone as fast as we could because we just didn't know what we were running up against. And we had everyone back before the end of the year. the end of 2020, everyone that we could get back. And we now sport a 95% retention rate after COVID. And we had a 95% retention rate going into COVID. And I think, what you said about conscious capitalism, and for the audience, if you don't know, and we've talked about it before on other shows, it's written by John Mackey, Whole Foods founder. And to DeLinda's point, the four tenets, and it's just, it sets you on the right course. And I read that book in 2015, and that's when we came up with the Be Better program. That's when we came up with, we have an internal rewards program, and we also have the One for One it's called the Be Better program, and we have the One for One program where we donate at this point a meal for every work order that we complete, and that is all derived from everything I've read in the Conscious Capitalism book. So again, if you guys are starting your own company out there, you're thinking about starting your own company, there's 3 books you need to read. There is Inspiring Generational Leadership by DeLinda. There's Conscious Capitalism by John Mackey, and then there's my book that's coming out in July, but we'll talk about that on another episode. So, a shameless plug. But anyway.
No, I love it.
So, DeLinda, it's been great having you on the show. If the audience wants to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
They can email me at DeLindaForsythe.com. Or go to my website, DeLindaForsythe.com, and that's DeLindaForsythe. So email, or just go to my website, download that free book excerpt, put your information in there, and ask to be contacted. And I'd love to have a conversation with your listeners, and if there's anything I can do to help them in their career and guide them as entrepreneurs. I as you can tell, I love mentoring people.
Awesome. Well, thanks, DeLinda, for coming on the show. And audience, until next time. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that today's episode inspired you to become a purpose-driven leader in your career or your community. There's no doubt that when we lead with purpose, we can change lives. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd be grateful if you would take a moment to rate us on your preferred listening platform. To learn more about Branded Group's Be Better experience and how we provide industry-leading, on-demand facility maintenance, construction management, and special project implementation, visit us at www.branded-group.com. Be sure to follow us on social media, and you can also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Until next time, be better.